the SM Media Podcast Network.
Hi folks, and welcome to the latest episode of SM Media's Countdown to Cheltenham 2026. I'm Scotty Pike. It is always a pleasure to be your host as always. Happy New Year to all our viewers. Hopefully it's a profitable one. To join me as always to look back on what has been a very busy Christmas period, it is a pleasure to welcome Calum McClurkin from the Scottish Daily Mail. Calum, Happy New Year, how are we?
Yeah, hi there. Happy New Year all. Not too bad. Quite wintry now and everyone's kind of frozen up, but it gives you a lot of time to kind of reflect on what's happened over Christmas and New Year, because there's a lot of nuggets that can get easily lost. So can process that down the line now.
What I want to ask first of all is, how was your punting over Christmas?
In and out. I think I got out quite often in the last days a lot. Boxing Day was all right. 27th was poor. 28th only one bet to Hupu. 29th was okay in the end. A couple of decent price winners. Didn't play 31st. First was quite good, in the second January I did quite well at Ayr, the local, so that was definitely my best day. So it was fine. It did get some profit, and I was kind of middling around even till a bit, but January the second got 4 out of 7 for me, so that was good in the multiple front.
Awesome, yeah, it was a good week. It was a good period for me overall, punting wise. And what I thought as well is, and I was going to get your thoughts on this. Usually at Christmas, it's kind of going to lead to odds on shots. I thought it was some very good racing. I thought there's a lot of open markets for Cheltenham, which we don't see very often. I thought overall it was a good period for the sport. I really enjoyed the Christmas period racing wise.
Yeah, and the King George was a thrilling finish. It was well attended as well. So was Cheltenham's Trials Day. It was really well attended. And Ayr was really busy the second.
Yeah,
Musselburgh was a sellout as well on New Year's Day. So a lot of these things in bank holidays, particularly around that time, it's kind of well penciled in the calendar, and people do like to still go out and attend, and no matter really what the weather. I think it's helped down south, particularly kind of Premier League football clashing with it, and stuff like that. So Boxing Day and New Year's Day, I think, was maybe a bit freer than normal. But yeah, no, there's a lot of competitive stuff across the board, and yeah, there's a lot to kind of take out of it.
yep, and we're going to dissect quite a lot of it in this podcast, and we're going to do it. Look, we're expecting very little racing to be on over the weekend, so instead of next week having very little to talk about, what we've decided to do is we're going to talk about the open divisions in this week's podcast. So that would be your kind of staying chasers, champion chase, champion hurdle, stayers hurdle. Then next week we will cover all the novice divisions. So we're going to start obviously this week with our staying chasers. We obviously had two very competitive Grade 1s that we'll get into. We'll start obviously with the one you mentioned, the King George on the 26th. Nothing better than Boxing Day, 4 horses going to the finish. I didn't have a play, well, a backpack to file, but we'll cover him shortly. So it was, my chance was gone. So I just kind of watched it and wanted a good finish. Jukebox Man won for Harry Redknapp and Ben Paulin. Brilliant result, obviously, for them. You'd Gaelic Warrior, Banbridge, and Jangle Bay all chasing them at the line as well. Great finish, Callum. Just in terms of, can I talk about the horses that were at the finish? What do you kind of take away for the King George?
Yeah, thrilling finish in isolation. Probably form to tread carefully with going forward. It was a prolonged dash and 3 out really, that led to, well, nothing was really fully beaten until 2 out. So it was kind of one of those things where it's an exciting finish, but what's really worth? I mean, the finishing speed splits were like 114% or stuff, but they still lowered the track record. That's probably in the count of the ground more than anything else. So yeah, and the 1, 2, 3 really were in the best position to track. They were prominent, dictated in the right position. The Jukebox Man nosing out Banbridge, who nosed out Gaelic Warrior, and Jango Bay was only beaten a half length in the fourth, where he was kind of a bit wider than far back an ideal maybe missed the second last and stayed on best from the lot. So the winner improved markedly. I mean, he did have that in his locker. He obviously won the Cato Star, but on raw figures at 671, he did have a lot to find. Banbridge in second, Joseph O'Brien in Christmas time, targets him wonderfully well, and he's got him to what he kind of did last year. It's just a better renewal, and he's just been kind of edged out by a stronger steer that still has speed in a sense. Gaelic Warrior, I think if it was a bit softer and they go a bit harder, I think he probably wins it quite nicely. Maybe ran a little bit flat after that big Punchestown effort, which is
I think his engine got him in contention. It was just the fact that he has the kind of engine to get there. I think got him in it because there was a stage where I thought he's out of this, and then he just somehow managed to get a bit more into him.
Yeah, and I think kind of Paul Tenney can lost his whip a little bit, towards running, which might have cost him. But he does have his kind of quirks as well a little bit. Didn't really see a lot of daylight because he was kind of glued to that inside rail as well. So it wasn't a bad position to be. It left him more of a hostage to fortune than the others. Coming when it was a scramble finish, I think it was a bit of a truer pace off the ground. I think he probably would have prevailed. And Django Bay's ran a stormer as well in fourth for another one that's pretty inexperienced. So yeah, I mean, you could probably replay that race another 4 times and you get 4 different winners. That's what it is. And it's a good advert for the sport in terms of getting a different audience in, because it's a big race and people are just going to tune in and watch a big race. And to have something as thrilling as that near the finale is very good. But ultimately, if you're going to treat it raw form wise, you do have to treat it a wee bit carefully, because you would be loath to kind of rule any of the 4 out in big races, and there might be the odd excuse in behind as well.
Well, you've got kind of 7-1, 8-1, kind of Django Bay, the Jukebox Man, Gaelic Warrior, 33 Banbridge for the Gold Cup, and then I think from what I can see here, I'm just looking down just now, I think they all 4 are entered in the Ryanair. I wouldn't be surprised if I think Jukebox Man, they'll take their chance in the Gold Cup. Gaelic Warrior, I think, as I say with the engine, I think he has to go for a Gold Cup. Wouldn't be surprised if Django Bay, I know that they probably will go Gold Cup, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Ryanair turns out to be a kind of walk-on for Fact to File, as we'll talk about. Wouldn't be surprised if they try 2.5 with him and just kind of rely on his performance at Cheltenham last year to get him close there, because I think he's got a serious chance of being a real grade 1 operator at 3 miles down the line. I just think they might take their time with him with next year in mind for the King George.
I'm not so sure, because I think out of the 4, he looked like the Gold Cup horse to take out of it, and connections are pretty keen on that idea. He missed the second last. I thought he stayed on best. I thought he was the one that, when the taps were turned on, he was the one that was initially found out from a bad position, and he stayed on really, really well. I thought he'd be the Gold Cup horse out of it. I think the Jukebox Man has a possibility of getting the trip. That was a career best by a long, long way, £18 probably. It would be interesting what they do, and they just freshen out and go straight there. I'd probably be tempted to do that. That was a big run. Taking in something like a Denman or Cotswold Chase would be risky and unnecessary as well after winning a Grade 1 like that. I mean, they then have to carry a penalty, and I don't. And what he did at the Albert Bartlett, where he just got nabbed up the hill, was definitely not too bad. But he was in the ideal position throughout, because I think everyone just expected Ellie Frontsay to wheel off like he did last year, and he was far more controlled from the front. It was a bit like the year without the drama when Frodon won it, where you think somebody's going to make a move and challenge here, and they didn't really. And I think that's maybe where, as you say, a horse that's maybe higher class and higher gears, like a higher cruising speed, like Gaelic Warrior showed in the John Durkin, said, why are you not kicking on here, really, and kind of asserting it? Because because it turned into a finish what you kind of anticipate, but it's a little bit of a scramble. But what the jukebox man did is, you thought he was booked for fourth after the last, and then he found a little surge. To me, it'll be difficult for because he'd have to play his hand as late as possible going up that hill, an extra quarter mile, and things might have to fall apart in front of him. So can he really obtain a kind of position that he likes, which he likes to race handy, but still have that kind of kick at the end? Is he going to come through them as effectively? Because he's definitely not slow.
No.
So you have him. I thought Django B was given an ornery ride, and he was not in a good position, and he had to kind of come wide and come far back, and he's in another couple of strides he was right on them. So and I didn't back any of the front four, and I thought he was the clear one to take it. I mean, he's the youngest in the race as well. The Gold Cup's got this profile now of young horses winning it, 7-8-year-olds, and he's now 7. So I think out of them all, I would back him from it. Gaelic Warrior, yeah, I think if it comes up soft, he's definitely a class act. He can stay. So undulations, left-handed, and he's just not. He's not wholly reliable. He's all those quirks I think from back in the day and things like when he was a 4-year-old. So you can't really imagine it. He's 8 really, but
yeah.
You just don't really know quite what to expect with him. And I think there's more of a possibility of him being the Ryanair horse than the other 4 to me, because I think he's kind of that versatile. If it cuts up ridiculously, could go there. But in Banbridge, we'll probably skip it altogether because he's kind of a Kempton Aintree kind of flat track specialist. Sean Bowen gave him a wonderful ride. It ran with real confidence, and you knew that he was kind of there. So he ran to 164 last year. I think he did the same thing again. I think he'd rate the form around the second. So it's not quite top class stuff, but if you think the top 2 in Ireland are a little bit regressive at the moment, they're all firmly in the picture, and that's why you see betting that's 11-2 the field.
Fact to file, we both fancied, didn't run his race. Maybe a couple of reasons for that is when we talk about 11-4 was kicking about for the Ryanair, which I thought was pretty big because you look at the horses in behind it in the market, you would imagine he's got the beating of them if he runs to last year. I have a wee bit of a theory with Fact to File that in order to get the best out of him, he's got to be ridden from the front. He got away with it in a Brown Advisory because he was the class act. I think every other time, he's only won twice since then, and it was a John Durkin where he was just behind the leaders, and obviously the Ryanair where he was just allowed to kind of bowl out in front after Ely Francie kind of broke the pace. I think that's the big reason. In fact, to Phil, I did think obviously maybe bounced after the John Durkin, but I do think you have to kind of have him at the front to get the best out of him.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because you'd have thought that assignment would be pretty ideal for him.
Yeah,
he never travelled yet. He was beaten after 3-4 fences. He was the one in the first mile and a half that he really didn't want to be on at all.
Yeah.
I found the ride bizarre. I mean, positions end all the way back out. There was one point where he went off there to go round the outside, and he was still there. He was still jumping on their heels, and there was a stage where he kind of snapped back in the bride a little bit, and you go, well, here you go. You're kind of riding him for a bit of speed. I'm worried that the John Durkin left the mark on him because that was a big Cecil effort. The money came for Gaelic Warrior, who was the fitter of the two, looked the fitter of the two in the paddock. In fact, to File had to make all this ground himself, got to him, went by him a little bit, and Gaelic Warrior came back up and kind of broke his heart a little bit. The combination of being short in fitness, massive effort to get into it, but getting beaten. I mean, a lot of horses don't really kind of come back from that massively well. He could. He ran deplorably at Punchestown as well after taking apart a poor Ryanair, but he did it in a big figure, and he produced another big figure there, and he didn't back it up, and he didn't back it up again there. So hindsight's a wonderful thing when you think fitness will come forward, but actually the nature of the race and how it panned out, it probably took more out of him than anybody thought. And
Would you go Irish Gold Cup with him again?
I would not. I would leave him to the
That's
Ryanair. It's actually interesting because the entries came out this week, didn't they? And he only left him
He's
in
only
Ryanair. And to me, that screams, we'll go straight there. We'll freshen you up, give you a break, time to recover from that, and go straight there. Because it's a race that's now, as you say, shaping up to be similar to last year. You know, we'll get the trip. Just give him a bit more verve, be handier, and yeah, but you would be mindful that it's left a bit of a mark there. So I mean, I wouldn't. I would like. You'd probably want to see a decent update before going in Cheltenham, and if you do get that, then you can probably take evens or a shade or odds against or stuff. But I mean, there could be dangers there. One of these protagonists in the Gold Cup can have a look and say that looks hot. The Ryanair doesn't. We'll drop into this. It's happened countless times before. And now the problem that Fact to File has is a little bit is the Ryanair's kind of the loveless race of the three reel at the festival, where it's kind of for horses that are a bit tripless and maybe not good enough for a Gold Cup, and he's entering that equation a little bit. The Brown Advisory one was poor. He's won 2 races at the festival, not very good ones. That and those big figures are maybe kind of clouding his kind of blowouts a little bit. So yeah, he should take it out in all known form. Willie Mullins should refresh him back up. We've got a couple of months to do that. It's doable. He was still there to the second last at a place that he probably hated. Like when Aplutar went down, just hated it. You can kind of see if they're not travelling, not enjoying it. Not seen to best effect either. He's still in a boxed on, but he's only beaten 9 and a bit at the end, so there's probably something there. You can see why people are getting stuck in. You just think horses for courses. That's his race. He's probably been mapped out again from the off. At the moment, there's nothing to beat. Not much anyway. The same stuff as last year, really. I mean, Hartwood's probably the only one that you'd say at the 14-1 bracket that's definitely going to turn up in this each way against them. So, yeah, there's a slight question to answer, but he's still got a lot in his favour, you'd imagine, come March at the moment.
Right, before we talk about the Savills chase, we would be remiss to not mention the Welsh National, which was won by Ante-Post. Brilliant performance from Rebecca Curtis to get him into that. 14-1 for a Gold Cup. I think it was just clear that he just didn't run his race at Haydock, but I thought he run this very, very well. Ad O'Connell in second, so I was a wee bit gutted, but you actually watch this race back. Ante-Post did very well to win this.
Yeah, I mean, he just stamped his class in this. You see it with Grand Nationals now. The weight's kind of not irrelevant, but less important. If you stamp your class on it, others can struggle to get back into it. Really, you need to be very well handicapped to win races like that now. And Horticultur's only won an Irish National, so and he's been around Cheltenham and won National Hunt Chase. So, I mean, definitely, but its question is, does he have the class? I doubt it, to be honest. I don't think it's a 14's chance. It's probably more of a 20's chance. He's a good jumper. He's efficient. He stays as a horse alike. He can go on good ground. And yeah, I mean, native rivers and stuff like that can have won Gold Cups. I mean, it's not implausible in a very open year. But I think he's got a good £8-10 to find on the King George form as well, and there's at least 3 that you can take in that, and probably Savills form as well. It's probably 2 or 3, so he's a bit to find. But Handstands had more to find, I thought, the King George, and he won. So I mean, it's that kind of odd year, and whether is he going to be able to dictate terms over a quicker, classier race? That'll be a struggle. Haydock, probably one of those things. It's a tight track, and it probably didn't play his strengths at all. And I think things were happening very sharply for him. I think the new course could probably get away with it a bit better in terms of track configuration, but in terms of the class of the race, it might be difficult for him. But yeah, I think it'll be hard for him to keep a prominent pitch throughout that, and I think that might do him in. But yeah, I wouldn't completely put anyone off each way on him, but I think he'd get much bigger in the day. I think he can wait comfortably. If all these turn up, I think he's going to be pushed right out.
Right, Savills Chase, Affordale Fury obviously went brilliant for No Mead. First Grade 1 winner since 2021, I believe, on Beacon Edge. I think so. Another, again, great trainer who obviously deserves his day. The winner, like, how do you rate his? We'll talk about a few horses here. How do you rate the winner's chances for a Gold Cup? Because he's about 14-1, and he's improving all the time.
He's improving, but he's jumping a lot right. I don't think he'd get away with that in the Gold Cup,
No.
to be honest. And I think he was mapped out really strongly for that day. So I think he'd have a bit to find as well, a bit like Horticulture Bracket, really. 14s, he wouldn't be for me. I'd be surprised if he was able to kind of keep going the upward curve and improve to get to these when they peak at spring.
A lot was mentioned about kind of a lot of horses jumping right at Leopardstown. You can get away with it because of the way the track is, and I think that the ground's a lot better on that side. I think they were saying so.
It's an outside chase track, isn't it? That's where you want to be. I mean, Marsborough kept jumping out to the left in the 2 mile race, and he's jumping into worse ground. So yeah, that's definitely a bit of a problem. But Anaya Maximus came second, came sweeping round there as well. So it's just a place to be, really. You see that in kind of Friday at Cheltenham, where they kind of sweep to the outside, coming a line in the likes of the County Hurdle Lambert Bartlett, so in the hurdle track. So it's not entirely unusual. Fairyhouse to do it the other way around, where they go to stand sides and Irish Nationals and things like that. So it's just the kind of general place you'd be, DOS up the middle for most of it, but in the business end, the kind of outside tends to be best place to be in it.
I am Maximus run a Stormer as well, probably more kind of national again. Grangesclere West, I thought again, Leopardstown just seems to get something out of him. Monty Star run well, fast or slow, I felt had every chance, and I just don't think he actually likes Leopardstown. Galloping Deschamps looked the winner 2 out, or even at the last, I would have said Galloping Deschamps probably could win that. Just race fitness caught him out, but probably comes out of this with credit.
Absolutely, ran well. A lot of market strength for him, so they must have been fairly confident that he was pretty well forward. And I think the ground's probably lively enough for him.
Yeah, I thought that as well.
Particularly first time round, so I think maybe a bit easy on him. Affordale came and repelled him twice, really. And yeah, I mean, as a reappearance run, it was perfectly satisfactory. It's his lowest figure, raw figure in a long time for me, but. Which would again put a slight question mark, because you need to go fairly back now for a 10-year-old to win a Gold Cup. Has he had one too many battles now? Missing the John Durkin looks very sensible, but there was still a lot of encouragement. He travelled through the race very nicely. He just blew up for fitness, really. Shaped as if he was probably the best horse in the race. So yeah. But the market strength suggested that he was quite forward, and they'd probably be a shade disappointed not to win
it. Right, next one's probably going to be controversial, because the Gold Cup winner, I know where you're thinking, was beaten 41 lengths. What price was it when we were talking? 2-1, I think, when we talked about him last time. It went off.
Well, in Ante-Post list, he was 74 2-1 joints with Galloping Deschamps, wasn't he? And then on the morning, he was going out 2-3-1, and then he was kind of readily available at 5-6s, and then out to 13-2 on the day.
Right. I have tried I've listened to every kind of podcast that I listen to, and you'd have probably been the same. And I've tried to think of take every single kind of opinion on board with this. I can't think of a reason why a Gold Cup horse is running like that. A Gold Cup winner is running like that, because you can't handicap him. Right? It's too high in the ratings. You can't handicap him. It's not like he's needing the run because he ran the John Durkin. The cynical part in me suggests that this wasn't an honest run.
Yeah, I mean, you're expecting a Gold Cup winner to show a bit more from first start to second start. Now, there's two schools of thought here. The one is he's just been lined up purely for one day March again. This is how he's going to be trained for the Gold Cup, because we think this horse can only run really well once a year. And they've kind of done that, where all his better runs in the spring. Is that the way he's mapped out? Yeah, the yard, the owner, that's how they can operate. So there's that way of thinking, and the fact that he's shorter for the Gold Cup than he was at the starting price the last day says a lot, because the bookmakers can't be confident that he's and nonetheless, it might be gone at the game, a little bit.
Yeah, the Gold Cup might have left a mark.
They do. I mean, there was a lot of them that won. I mean, that were never quite the same. Coney Grease, Eisen John, Don Cossack retired immediately after it. Gallop and Deschamps kind of rewritten the rule book in that a little bit. Applutard definitely went after he won his. So it is that school of thinking, but on the flip side, he's still been kind of campaigned as you say, he's kind of a handicapper that's been lined up for one day. Now, when you win a Gold Cup, your profile is considerably higher. There are more eyes on you. The expectation is greater, and the hardened insiders know what racing's like. They know how horses are campaigned. They know how it operates. They know how it pays its way, really. But if you're a Gold Cup winner, and your mainstream audience tune in, your Saturday audience, watch Grade Ones, they watch festivals, and they kind of see the Gold Cup winners 2-1 out to 13-2.
Yeah,
that's a bit strange. Or that's good value each way, and people could get hardened people shout that down and say, look, you should know what this is about. But even plausible form people will go, well, Gold Cup winner, if he bounces back to that form he's had a run, and you could make a tentative form book case for him outside of that. So Trip's more suitable. He's had his run. Yeah, the yard are still struggling, but they've popped up with the odd winner. When final orders came out, cruised that cross country for the yard, so they can definitely target one, map one out. So yeah, surely he'll show why he's a Gold Cup horse. Surely this is going to be the day where he's going to show something a bit better. At least close the gap. And he was right out the back and didn't. Getting very tight into his fences, which again is a common trait, but he never saw it out, and he was given a very tender time. Now, to the casual observer, it's pretty sickening to watch.
Yeah.
Now, what's even more sickening is the stewards say nothing. Just ask the question. Can you explain this performance? If you can, say, look, he's just ran flat, he's never travelled, then at least you've got an answer. At least you've asked it. It's an insufficient answer. But at least for the integrity of the sport, you've asked that question.
Well, you mentioned integrity of the sport, right? And on form, based on his 2 runs last season, there is absolutely no way that horse should be 6-1 for a Gold Cup. Absolutely no way. But because of what we think might be at play, bookmakers can't have him at 12-14-1, because there's every possibility he is being trained with Cheltenham in mind, and he just brings up this amazing performance at Cheltenham, and 14-1 is not an option. It's nonsense. Integrity is a good word, because it is really sickening, and he's always a jumping issues. Like, go back to his Kim Muir one off 145 where he was absolutely thrown in. He jumped like a train that day as well, and got away with it because it was class edge. I can't think of any reason why a horse is running like this. Or like the second best horse in training, realistically, in ratings. As you mentioned about the casual viewer, I even more the kind of like guys like you and I, like even like honest people, it's nonsense.
second runs. I mean, there's the fact that there's no real explanation forthcoming. The fact that there's a lack of interest as well to get one. It's it's on to the next day, on to the next race. And there's a couple of media that asked him, but he wasn't asked about the drift. I mean, you can't. Frank Berry and Gavin Cromwell can't turn around and say, "Oh, he's never travelled. We don't know why." Well, the market did.
Yeah, exactly.
The market all knew all day. So why are you not asking that question? It's not. I mean, and then they kind of hammer Gallop in the shop, and then the excuse is, well, there's not enough money in the markets anyway, so it doesn't take much money to move it. Well, why are we all here then? It is a ludicrous landscape to operate in. It's not some sort of 0 to 100 at Tramore that nobody cares about. This is a Gold Cup winner, Grade 1, for God's sake. And the Cheltenham factor as well is a thing. I mean, it's just all these top owners, big horses. It doesn't matter what you do for the rest of the season. If you line up that day and get rewards, you win, and that's fine. That's a big race in its own right, and you want the Gold Cup winner to kind of show some sort of zest and spark. And if he doesn't, you want an explanation for it.
Yeah.
And so never travel flat. We'll get him home. I think they're running some blood tests, but I mean, you'd be hoping to hear something. Definitely in the build up to the Irish Gold Cup, because he's going to go there and you're going to have the same question all over again, saying, what price are you going to put this in? Because in raw form, you give him a 50-1 chance. On his Gold Cup form, he'd be joint favourite with Gallop and Deschamps again. So, I mean, the market can't assess it. Punters can't assess it. You can't assess it Ante-Post, because you've either got to come to a hard conclusion of, we'll just have to wait to see what happens with this horse on the day, to have a bet in good faith in an Irish Gold Cup and a Gold Cup, or make the hard decision of, I actually hate this horse, I don't want him to win anyway, and I won't back him.
There will be a lot of people like that, though.
I'm kind of getting there, really.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen a couple of people mention it's kind of like Langardin. Yeah, I mean, yeah.
It's not a million miles away, yeah.
Yeah, it's Langardin without the kind of questions about it, really. I mean, the dance girls had a few pulled in that he said asked about in the stewards. It's just disappointing to me that the vet just looked over and said, it's post-race normal.
That's it.
And the stewards saw nothing.
Yeah.
Looked into nothing, right? I mean, you could, I mean, horse racing wise, you could kind of wrongly declare a tongue tie and get fined for it. Well, this is going on, I mean, well, you can see why the gambling yield and people are betting on it less. Simple as that.
Right, Gold Cup. Right, we've kind of done Gold Cup. We'll go into Champion Hurdle next. We'll go to Boxing Day, the Christmas Hurdle, which we saw Sergino make his return. Very good fashion. Good to see the horse back. Again, we've got our thoughts on whether he should be going hurdles or should be going fences. 64 for the Champion Hurdle value.
No. You've got to remember his background.
Yeah.
You still have to remember his background. One performance beating Golden Ace. Golden Ace would hate Kempton, really. It wouldn't be her track. It's a good performance. Is he rightful favourite? Probably in balance, because Lossiemouth could still go mares. Probably the only horse that can beat him on form. But will he get there? He's not got to the festival yet.
Yeah.
Not even as a juvenile. And it's a valid question to ask. You'd still have to have doubts, and enough doubts to get in that 64. And there is still a theory that he's not. He's a chaser, really.
He jumped a few like a chaser. Well. Yeah, he does. He jumped.
He did. He wasn't quick at it. You might not need to be, because he just stand up, because the ones that are too quick that flick them to fall. But and he's there on numbers. He's doing it easily enough that there looks like there's more to come. But you have to remember, 10 weeks out, 64, a horse of that fragility is a big Ante-Post risk you're taking. How short can he really, really go from now on there?
Well, he's going to go to the trials day and likely go up against the New Lion. And again, those are the kind of clashes we want. I think the New Lion's got a lot to prove after Newcastle. Obviously he has run at Cheltenham. He beat Burdett Road, I think, in the juvenile trial. So we know he kind of acts at the course. It is just a case of, is he going to get there? And I want to take 64 at this moment, whereas on the day, if Lossiemouth... I don't think he'll be odds on if Lossiemouth goes. Because if Lossiemouth is going here, he's probably won the Irish Champion Hurdle.
And that £7 is crucial, because there's definitely not a lot in it. definitely not a lot in it. I mean, his best figure is over fences, still is by some way when he beat Ballyburn. Just because it's probably a harder division, but I mean, it did easy enough. It was a lot in the tank. The new line probably ask a different kind of question. It'll be maybe a bit more attritional, more emphasis on stamina, and that'll test how resolute he is. That's probably the only doubt. If it turns up to be a renewal like last time in the Mayor's Ducat, yeah, you could see him go 46, 47, but you would rather kind of wait and see how things are going with them. Even that short, I certainly would be.
Well, we'll go to the Christmas hurdle on the 29th. Lossiemouth beat Brighter Days Ahead. I thought it was a really good run from Brighter Days Ahead, and Lossiemouth probably had the race won, but she had to obviously work a wee bit hard and fend off the threat. What do you take for this race? Like Anzadam, obviously, I saw people blaming Patrick Mullins. There was absolutely nothing he could do with that. Like, I don't think so. Like, let's just decide that he was off.
I think professional handling with better hands would help really. The thing with Amsterdam is that he took off there and he kind of was partially dogged at Newcastle, so he's done things wrong, two completely contrasting things wrong that you don't want to see at the end of races. One is taking off and not seeing it out, and then the first time is not really going through with it. So you've got that question mark with a horse. It's got undoubted ability. He's still very young. Lossiemouth goes mares, Paul Townend might have to ride, and that would be a plus. It's just the trick of the horses, the more professional jockeys. I mean, it's no slight. It's just fact. You want your best referee in the cup final. You don't get an amateur. I mean, and handle the occasion. So yeah, he's definitely strong enough, but I think subtlety and stuff like that is kind of going in. If something goes slightly out of kilter, he can take off. But he was only beaten 6 and a bit, which is not a bad effort.
No, it's not.
Given what he did, and there wasn't a lot of pace in the race. So I think he's just inclined to. While there was probably more pace in the Newcastle race with the new line going in front because he wanted to make it a stamina test. So probably gave him more of an opportunity to settle for longer. So he just couldn't hold him on for enough and just take him off. But if he could learn to race, then yeah, but what he would do in the finish, I mean, it's anyone's guess. I mean, you can see him kind of biting it and hanging all over the place up a hill, So yeah, I think it's too much too soon for him, but he's a fascinating horse to monitor, and I can see why people are tempted in 25-1 each way because if it cuts up a little bit,
he's top of the county hurdle market as well.
Yeah, well, true, a faster pace, but I think it's off too high now, far too high for that. He wouldn't be a horse I would like to kind of lumber top weight on. He's quite slight and nimble. So yeah, he's an interesting one out of it. I thought Lossiemouth was holding on fairly comfortably. A lot more tank, just idled. And the way they took off, can excess stamina, probably one of the day.
During that form could be reversing the Irish champion.
Could be an Irish champion. I don't see it at Cheltenham because just Brighter Days Ahead at Cheltenham. It's a bit of an anomaly, really. I think you'd have to take a lot of faith there, but that could be priced into her. To me, she's put up. I mean, when she won the Irish champ, when we put that big figure up against, a couple of years ago. We beat Winter Fall by 30 lengths. That's probably one of the biggest 2 mile performances seen recently, and it maybe left a marker on the clock. And I think they've done well to kind of get her back to there, but. Stable and flying form was confidence there. I think she ran pretty close to her peak. And, Lossiemouth was just maybe in a better position and fitness told. I think she'd have a fighting chance of doing it. I think it depends on how the race is tactically run, but I just think Lossiemouth may just have the edge over her. Irish champ might be a bit different. Because I think out of all the tracks, I think Lossiemouth's slightly weaker at Leopardstown. I think she was better at Punchestown on her seasonal debut than she was there. Only marginally, but But that's testament to consistency. I mean, she's very consistent, but like a horse that will come onto the Steers vision where she constantly turns up, barring one mistake where she could have took her eye off the ball at Leopardstown. She's always there, but I think she might be taking in a rival in Sub-Zero in the Champion Hurdle if they go that way. That would make it look like that the last one or two renewals of the Champion Hurdle were there for the taking. It's amazing she's just 6 turn 7, isn't it, as well?
Yeah,
But,
remarkably
but yeah,
consistent.
I think probably 60-40 mares. I don't think it would take much for connections to go, take a look at the race. We'll go here this time. Thank you very much.
Right, okay, so Champion Hurdle, Sergino, we're kind of saving thoughts until Sergino and the New Line take on, and then the week after we'd get Lossiemouth against Brighter Days Ahead, so it's kind of an open division, even though there's a 6-4 favourite. Champion Chase, before we get into the race at Leopardstown, the only kind of real interest we saw was in England was Thistleask. What do you give him in a Champion Chase?
Yeah, no real interest there.
Probably more likely to go for a Grand Annual, I'd imagine.
Well, he's going up the weights, I suppose, but he's beating. He's getting weight and beating rubbish. He's got £20 to fine.
Yeah. Right, Irish. I forget the name of the race actually. What is it? It's just the Paddy Power Chase, isn't it? Was won by Solness. Again, really good performance. Thought stamina played a part in this. Again, we'll get into Marine National and Masborough, but I think Solness stamina just won the day.
Yeah, and track position as well. Wide, loves the place, dictating, and yeah, pulled out the fire. And that was a really good performance. And he has had a little break this season as well, so he was constantly on the go. And I think that kind of caught up with him at Cheltenham a little bit. Decent ground there. I don't think he's an absolute backmarker at Cheltenham as people think. He's a pretty solid jumper. I mean, you've got to remember he couldn't really dictate because Enna Gamino went lickety split, and that John Bon was inconvenienced by the start. So was Solness badly. That standing start, badly, position wise, it had to do a lot of work to get to the front. So it didn't work out from that day, and he's still fourth. He's around about 20s. It's an each way bet. He's not too bad. I mean, don't dismiss him as a kind of good track Leopardstown kind of bully. He could back that up, and the fact that he's had a break, he wasn't going up in the summer too much, means he's a hardy individual that could take in, the Dublin Chase and do quite well at the festival as well.
I wouldn't be surprised if he does the double again and goes one to
easily could. I mean, it's very specific, isn't it? I mean, his Marine Nationals obviously want to take out of it. He's made a big mistake and got really close.
Was it a mistake? Like, what happened? Like,
you see that photographer behind the wing there. Maybe it caught his eye. I don't know. He kind of he did something out of the ordinary. After that, he jumped absolutely.
I thought he jumped great. Yeah.
He does have the odd quirk in him. He does have a high head carriage for a horse like that. And the Champion Chase, there'd be people like say Quilixios was still in the mix there. He's definitely not an ungenuine type, but I mean there is the odd kink in him, and I think the trainer's done remarkably well to campaign him and make him as consistent as he is. And his track form around Cheltenham definitely makes him the rightful favourite and the one to beat. I think Elliot Thomp's figure at Sandown's the best we've seen so far this season, but he's second favourite because Cheltenham is still a doubt. I'd say he's underperformed. Let's say he hates the place, but I mean, he's underperformed. He's underperformed in pretty good races. Triumph would probably needed it. Supreme, if you're taking in a Triumph, taking a Supreme, you don't really have a good record in that race anyway. The Arkle.
He did run terrible in the Arkle.
He ran all right. Yeah, he did. He ran all right. Gaelic Warrior won it. He bumped into a really good horse as well. So, yeah, I mean, he's definitely a player. But it's a Cheltenham factor that's probably switched into Marine National's favour. And then there's Masborough, who again for me is a 2.5 mile horse.
Give up on him 2 miles. I think you already had. I think It's a tough one because he was 64. Yeah.
I'd give up on him for a champion chase. That's for sure. And it punches down over 2 miles. This is a horse that clearly, as a trainer, Willie Mullins, who's identified since he won the Triumph Hurdle, saying this is a future Gold Cup horse. He's doing things out of the ordinary. He needs a trip. Now, you can persist with it in the Arkle because Stayers can win it, but his mistakes happened because the second last came around too fast for him. And he galloped into it. And he didn't learn from it. He's a big raw horse, and he did the same thing the last. And he was still boxing on against a race that was won by a horse that now looked like a Gold Cup type in Django Bay that stayed on as well. You know, and the rest of them look kind of Stayers to me as well. So in that Arkle. So, and then it punches down, you know, he's able to get away with it. And he was just too forward as a novice that day. But, you know, he does have an engine. And when he meets the fence right, he meets it absolutely fine.
Mm-hmm.
So, and he's got to remember he's a really young horse still at 6.
What do you think about the gap thing? Like, would he have got the gap? Or was that... Because a lot of people have made mention of that, but I just think he didn't jump well enough to win. I don't think the gap would have mattered.
He didn't finish out the race that well, did he?
Nah.
Really? Maybe he was given tender handling, and the quick turnaround from Cork is probably kind of done him in. And I quite like the school of theory of Willie Mullins kind of, you disappointed me at Cork, so I'm going to kind of make you run in this race a little bit, even within a quick turnaround. In fact, if I wasn't there, he'd be going Ryanair all day long, and that's a race for him, because one of these days he might go the way of El Fabiolo, where one of these howlers is going to catch up with him and really knock him back. I think it's kind of a kind of credit to him that he's still boxing on in these kind of races and he's not beaten far. It's a gap there. The fact he jumped left and inside into the worst ground all the time didn't help him either. I think the gap was it's 6 half a dozen really. I don't think Mark Walsh is riding with a lot of confidence over the Christmas period either at that time, really. I'm not really sure they know what they want to do with the horse. And to me, the answer is just give him a chance. And when he does get in tight to one, or he meets in a wrong stride, we do it over a longer trip, so he's got kind of
time to
kind of think about it and be nimble about it, and he can do it at a slower pace. I don't think he's a complete rogue, or
no, I don't think he is either.
Not smart enough. I think he is. I just think he's still very raw, very young. He did and people are just expecting this kind of linear, stratospheric kind of improvement. It just doesn't work like that. He's still running low 60s pretty regularly. That was a step back from Cork for me. I think, you know, that was a very good winning opportunity there. And I think he's a horse that's pretty hard on himself as well. The way he gallops, a very pronounced action. He's definitely a funny one to weigh up. But you can just kind of see these mistakes creep in again in the champion chase. And it's going to be even more plain to see to me. You saw it in the Arkle, what he did in the second last. You've kind of already kind of got the frighteners of what he might do in the second last here. I think his class and his engine is keeping him in these races. It's keeping him being strongly bet in these races. To me, what he needs is a kind of a chance to breathe a little bit and to relax a little bit and slow things down a little bit. I would be going up and trip, and I'd be doing it now.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is as well, because of the way kind of last year worked, I think they originally thought Ballyburn was going to be the Arkle horse, and then this guy showed a lot over 2 miles, and they thought, why do we need to step him up if he's doing it?
He showed so much so soon, and that's the thing. I mean, and then they don't step them up and trip when they need it in time. You know, he's going to need it earlier than the likes of like Shishkin did, or Altior did, or maybe even El Fabiolo did. You know, he was a Triumph Hurdle winner. Most of them turn out to be stayers. You know, he outstayed Cargis at the end of the day. You know, he outstayed him. He didn't jump well hurdles. He was just this big raw unit that just galloped him at the ground in soft ground because he stays. So to me, he's a stayer. And if you're trying to force him to do something that's not natural to him at a higher level, at an open level, you're continuously going to get found out. And the wee niggling doubts and mistakes come into bigger mistakes, race-ending mistakes, career setbacks.
It's the more as well when you look at the.
I really want this horse because I do have a firm belief in him. I do think he's still very, very good. I do think he's top echelon. I do think that this kind of younger horses win Ryanair's now. Older horses win, and they win Gold Cups here. I think you'll regret down the line not stepping up quicker if you keep persisting with this 2 mile nonsense.
It's the one
He's
kind of
out
thing.
his comfort zone far too much.
The one we've taken away for this Christmas period has been race index. Yeah, you would love. I haven't seen it, but you would love to know how much he's losing when he's jumping a bad one.
Well, apparently, like the race IQ stuff thinks that he's actually a good jumper. Now, I mean, all the technical data and stuff like that in the world, I mean, doesn't really pass the eye test to be. But I think you can be a good jumper on the whole. But if you're, in my opinion, he's at the wrong trip. So if you're going to meet the fence wrong, you're less likely to get away with it.
Yeah.
And a minor mistake becomes a big one, and it's a race-ending mistake in a way. And he's doing it quite often now, and I don't think he's getting. And I think the horse himself is taking a lot of knocking for something that's not really his doing, in my opinion. Because I think GP McManus to get so many Ryanair. Facty File's an obvious one with Willie Mullins. He's just now the 2.5 miler. I think Jaguar's a potential 2.5 miler. John Bond now looks like a 2.5 miler. You've got the same owner that's got the same type of top class horse that to me all look 2.5 milers. And that's the issue. They've been inclined to split them up to Gold Cup. At least he's got, I know the way you're thinking, and I Maximus potentially in there. Champion Chase doesn't. And one of them has to be, unfortunately, Pigeonhole Champion Chase. And Masborough, it seems to me, unfortunately, that horse is the youngest one there. And he's doing all that trip. The fact they even tried it, Facty File at Punchestown says it all. It's the race that commonly eludes GP McManus as well.
I don't think he's ever won it, has he?
Maybe not. I remember Defi Desoy beating it. John Bond repeatedly. So that's the thing. They want him to be it. And if they clear round and if it's perfect, he can. I think he's good enough. He's getting close. But I just don't think it's his natural bag. So and the evidence is mounting up on that. So yeah, to me, he'd beat Facty File or Ryanair. That's how much I think of him. I really do. I think 2.5. I think is definitely what he wants, particularly at the age of 6. Because you can get 8 into 9, you can win 2 miles. If you've got natural speed, it just stays there. If you're 2 miler, you're definitely a 2 miler as well. Until we kind of get beaten, you're kind of found out. So yeah, Special Tiara was kind of just an out and out 2 miler, horses like that can go in. While further up on the trip you go, it's kind of harder to kind of stay competitive in those races. So that's why might be a bit kind of remorseful of not kind of pressing ahead with him further up the trip, because to me that's what he needs the most.
Right, we'll move into the Stairs hurdle, where we saw obviously the Christmas hurdle on the 28th. The only bet you had on your birthday was Tia Hoopu, and he comes in at 5-2. The Stairs hurdle market is obviously quite open, and again, there's a lot to cover by this race, but is there a more consistent horse than Tia Hoopu?
He's been brilliant. And I thought that was a career best for him, because I thought he showed something different there, where he kind of gears and scooted away and prominent. And he normally kind of grinds and scraps and wins pretty ugly, but he put that away very nicely. He's done that sometimes at Punchestown, but he's not really done it pre Cheltenham, and it kicked the myth that he needs to be best fresh as well. So as a stayer, he's coming out the best himself and keeping himself sound, and he really enjoyed it. And yeah, he stamped his authority and class and staying power on it really, really well. And his old adversary Bob Orns has ran quite well into second, and to me they're light years ahead of the field. Light years.
The last time he won the kind of round about Christmas time was 2021. He beat Klilitsios in a bumper in a juvenile, no, the 4-year-old race,
Yeah, can
and
I be conditions race?
that was his that was his remember he went for the champion hurdle that year and just didn't like it. So
Well, it's 2 miles, isn't it? It's a 3 mile.
yeah, he's the one again. Like although imposed was shortening at 7-1, Bob Ollinger I thought ran a stormer again. I think he'll improve for that. Ballyburn, what do you do with him?
Non-stayer. I wouldn't be adverse to flinging him on a champion hurdle, see what happens, really. But he looks like one of those that might have to just sit and suffer to entry, really. Freshen him up a little bit. Again, a very high class, well ahead novice, and to me, he's just not quite made the grade in open company, not improved, and others have improved past him, but he's not quite got to that level and had a wee backward step. I think that's probably where he is. I think he's maybe mid 150s, high 150s operator, but in top grade ones, that won't be good enough. And to me, he ran with a lot of zest in the Hatton's Grace, where he looked like they wanted to take out the race, but Tihupu, although he's maybe a bit more straightforward and forward and had the run of the race and held on at the line, he was going to improve for 3 miles as well, massively for the trip. Ballyburn was an uncertainty with that. And again, he's far too fresh to see that out. So, yeah, he's at 2.5. I think you have to kind of wait to see what your grade 1 is there, and it's always invariably entry. I think
This
that's
was
what you'd have
probably
to
the
go.
best. This was probably the best the head carriage was since he started.
That to me again, it's always talked about. To me, that doesn't bother me that much.
I don't think it bothers you that much. It's just an
It
awkward
would bother me
watch.
over fences
Yeah,
because you can't see them in time to get his head up. But I
just
mean,
awkward to watch for me. Like that's
well,
it's
I would rather have that
yeah.
than that.
Yeah.
But to me, he jumps hurdles absolutely fine. You know, it's just when you do the low head carriage, you're fear since the bridle, so you won't kind of settle. And he's given himself no chance of seeing it 3 miles. Leopardstown got away with it because it's an off chaser because it was a bad race and there was nobody else in it really. But it found him out at Cheltenham, and it found him out even big time at Punchestown, where everything fell in his favour. It was more speed related, and he still didn't get home from Champ Kiley. So if he didn't see that out, I don't think he's in much chance of that. 2.5, he'd get away with it. And he could kind of even settle him and come down late as he did in the Hatton's Grace. And I think that's what he is now. I think, if he wants to win grade ones, I think he can only do it 2.5 mile hurdles. An interesting experiment, if you want to run him, would be the champion hurdle.
Yeah.
Just go out, Paul, let's see what happens. Just see what happens. If they overdo it, they can come up that hill. Because he's got more of a chance picking up pieces than that than the stairs.
Jig Tiahupu's a bet 13-8.
Yeah, I think he's a street clear of these. I think he's more clear in the favourites than a lot of them. The thing is, he's not getting shot that much, is he? They're going to get a lot of each three guys in post-tois is still improving. Honesty policy. Gordon Elliott's got a good line through that. That's a young up-and-coming one, and that's up there in the market. So, and Bob Owens will beat him last year in the Falls-Hiller race, and
he has got. Yeah, he's going to be running a lot. He'll be running a lot better.
I think that, but I think there was excuses for Tihupu that day. I mean, the jockey was barely fit.
Yeah,
barely fit last twice. Actually, been on it, and he still won one of them. So. And I think it's kind of 8 going 9. This is probably the year that he's got to win it. Bob Ollinger, 4 from 4 at the festival, so he's getting automatic respect. But it'll be tough at 11, I think, for him. Even though he ran really well there, and he seems to well himself, or he's probably quite lightly raced for his age, actually. But I think everything tactically went in his favour that day. They didn't go quick. He had decent enough ground. And I think, Tihupu showed that, he can handle that, but he's probably at his best when you can get down and dirty yet. And he's not really had to this season. And, he's reliable, consistent profile. So he's clear favourite in numbers. He's consistent. He's going to be there. It's going to be his target.
straight there. Do you think No running between.
I would think now, yeah,
Yeah.
go straight there. Yeah.
I mean, the only thing I thought was maybe a Galmoy or something, but again, I don't really. I know they did that once, but I can't really see what they did again.
I don't think they do that now. Yeah, you have to go over for the likes of the Cleve, and that's grade 2, so I don't think it would bother. Oh, straight there, all systems ahead, and yeah, I think it's a decent enough favourite.
Okay, we'll do males just quickly before we go on to Ante-Post. We'll look at the males hurdle again. Voodoo again, she's 74 for the males hurdle. I really like this horse. She's not the flashy horse that maybe Lossiemouth has been in this race, but she wins when she has to. I mean, that's the last twice she's been in a difficult position. You thought she's beat, and she comes home and wins. And I think if Lossiemouth doesn't go here, I don't see what beats her in a male's hurdle.
The thing, and I think 74 about that, and it all of a sudden becomes tricky.
I wouldn't actually have her out of place in a stairs if she went there, but she won't. She'll go for male's hurdle, but she could run well in a stairs if they decided to go in that route.
Yeah, and even the champion's mooted, but she's not quick enough for that.
No.
Ask it the last day, I think kind of showed that. Even there, Feet of the Dancer kind of had her off the bridle a little bit, so I don't think you can spend too much time off the bridle in shorter races. The fact that Males Hurdle is in the new course now is a strength, more emphasis on stamina, which would suit. And yeah, she's steadily coming up the ranks, beat Feet of the Dancer, wrong in at the weights, penalty. So it was a better performance in the figures than it probably looked, and she's getting there. She's definitely not far off them. She's within a few pounds now. The difference is being in a really kind of bona fide Grade 1 environment. She came from the handicap with Martin Pipe, a nice prep into Aintree, where Lossiemouth was maybe a little bit below par, but still beat her two and a half. You could probably see a similar outcome again, where she gets within there, her fighting qualities, battling qualities really hard, and will give her a hard race, but she's not quite as classy as Lossiemouth in class. Again, maybe like we saw when Lossiemouth fended off Brighter Days Ahead, there is just a touch of class there that can see her over the line if she's slightly off it. At Cheltenham, she usually isn't off it, Lossiemouth, and I think Lossiemouth would probably enter kind of winning streak there, but it would be close. I mean, it certainly wouldn't be a kind of walk in the park last couple of mares races that she's had. So, and the new track would ask a greater stamina question of Lossiemouth than it would of Voodoo, so that could flip it. So pace of the race on the day would be important. So yeah, I mean, I do think it seems to me, probably at the start of the season it was 60-40 should Lossiemouth run the Champion Hurdle. I think it's probably now 60-40 should run the mares a little bit now. But we'll see. But Voodoo's definitely a kind of credible rival, and if you look at the rest of the field, there's not a lot there. No, Feet of the Dancer could actually run reasonably well.
Jade de Grugy might come back over hurdles if there have been fences.
You're now looking late in the day to do that.
Yeah.
And I don't think she's good enough either, to be honest.
Mares Chase, we saw both Dino Blue and Spindleberry win. They're both 94. Only by Night, I didn't think run great in the Paddy Power Chase. July Flower, I thought ran okay, but Dino Blue and Spindleberry, I would personally prefer Spindleberry at this point. Thought she ran better.
Tight, yeah. On that form, yeah. As a whole back catalogue and the way Dino Blues campaigned, and Spindleberry not being at Cheltenham, can see why they can't split them, because that would be in Dino Blue's favour. She's going to be 9, so. But I thought her Mares Chase win last year was a career best, and it was pretty well backed up at Punchestown. So you can set your watch by her, and that's what you kind of want in Grade 1 mares. A bit like Lossiemouth and the Garver, you just know what you're going to get, really. Spindleberry, up and coming one. Funnily enough, they both banked one. Dino Blue took a massive chance at the last.
Yeah.
Probably a lack of concentration. Spindleberry banked one at Doncaster. Game hard on the bridle and still outclassing. Also, it's a Gold Cup entry, which is interesting. But the good thing for Spindlebury is that she absolutely defied any doubt of going left-handed.
But I call Reeve about her, I think, as well. Like,
yeah, far straighter and more
yeah.
straightforward. Yeah, I would say so. And yeah, she might be the kind of upcomer that can get to Dino Blue's level and beat her. She's probably more stamina, and Dino Blue's probably got more speed. So again, the tactical nature of how it all unfolds in front would be interesting. Only by night probably speedier type. The Cromwell Yard. We've had the I know the way you're thinking rant, but they are 3 for 55 or something like that. I mean, there is a legitimate concern there, and the Yard invariably just come back to form in the spring because that's what they want to do. So you have to keep that in mind. And she did have pockets of form. She did beat Champ Kylie over 2 the day before that, so she can come back to it. Diva Luna, I think, is an interesting sleeper that's not far off it. Wonderful jumper. And there's others in there. I mean, you could maybe include Calaconte. Cargis is probably too speedy and probably would have to be chancing in Arkle. The big Westerner has this option as well. She could be a good steer, and if it goes harder ground, it could play into her favour. So for a much maligned race, sometimes as introduction, you just need the horses to go there. And this could be the year that finally we get kind of, instead of 2 or 3 leading contenders, we could get 5 or 6. So it could be one of the better races of the festival if it shapes up, if they all kind of decide to go there.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to do like eye catchers, and obviously we said novice hurdlers and chasers next week. So we'll cover a lot of horses next week that are up and coming in those divisions. We're not expecting much this weekend, so we'll have more time next week to talk about those divisions. We do have an Ante-Post pick though. I'm on the board with 2. Yeah, Copacabana is still there because there's conflicting reports that it's not out. But you've got another one, and it's a 33-1 pick, and I think it's in the county hurdle.
It's in the county hurdle, yeah. Yeah, I've gone mad for 2026. Training with Willie Mullins, Zillow.
Okay.
There's only a few firms that have priced this up, so they do pretty well. But yeah, I mean, he ran at Leopardstown, another big drifter actually. Went out to 13-2, was favourite for a long way. Drifted out in a very good 2.5 mile handicap at Leopardstown. Made this big sweeping move on the outside from the back, got to without 2 out, and again for the 3rd time over this trip, shaped as if he's a non-stayer. Okay, he's it's kind of the Willie Mullins factor of what he wins this with in the last 2 renewals. He's won it with high class, unexposed young horses. Cargis last year, Absurd, who's in the same ownership as Zillow 2 years ago.
That's the one I thought you were going for.
And he had a kind of, well, Absurd's not going to go, is he? He's kind of too good in the flat now. And the same with Ethical Diamonds in the same ownership they've placed in it as well. So it's a race he likes to target with a young unexposed type. He's had 8 hurdle runs, so he's a 2-time season novice. When he won in November after his Leopardstown effort, that was over 2 miles. He beat Bones and Fire easily. Bones and Fire came out routed the field over Christmas. The marks that he's won this with recently have been 141 with Cargis, 137, 138, something like that with Absurd. This horse is a 134. And there's more to come with him. He's got pockets of decent form. He's got pockets that he doesn't, but he's still very unexposed. And to me, half of his runs have been wasted over a trip that's gone too far. And again, I thought that was an eye catcher. So the fact that he's in Martin Pike betting and Coral Cup betting, I wouldn't back him for that because I don't think he would stay the trip. I think there's enough evidence there. So I think this is the only race he can really go for. It's a race that Willie Mullins and Dan Skelton have plundered pretty much exclusively for 10 years, apart from the year Belfast Banter won it, St. Ra, State Man. And he's won it with high-class horses in the past that have got a lot in hand. It's the handicap at the festival that Willie Mullins targets very successfully. There are other Mullins horses there. I think a lot of them are maybe a bit exposed, high in the handicap. Amsterdam, for instance, champion hurdle, surely. So, and too high. So I think this is the one that's a sleeper. And I think with introductions at 33s, I mean, these horses go off. I mean, Cargis went off very short
Yeah.
to win. St. Ra went off very short. Absurd went off 12s, but that's still a lot shorter than 33s. So it's Willie Mullins. If Paul Townend picks him or is on him or he goes there, even if he doesn't go there, there's a high chance that he's not going to be 33 to 1. It'd be interesting if he runs in the DRF in a 2 mile race or something, maybe kind of have a more eye catching run or a definitive drift, because he did back out it markedly, but he made a very nice stylish move way round the outside, and he was about 10 wide went into it, and he understandably backed out of it that day, and the drift kind of told. But I think there was more promise in that run than there was, and I still think he's an upgrade. I think a mark of 134, with the British tax that he might get, a couple 137, 138, that is exactly the ballpark figure that Willie Mullins has run his horses off in this. State Man was 141, I think. St. Ra was 137. So, Cargis 141, Absurd in that 140 bracket as well, at low 140s. That's where you want to be. He's the right age, he's the right profile, right ownership, and definitely the right trainer. So, yeah, he's definitely worth a poke at 33s, because if he is the right one, and if he is, and maybe not even those classier types of horses, he's going to be in with a very good shout, and it'll be better than a 33 to 1 chance. He's never gone off kind of that price in his life either. So I think he's held in some. He's obviously not a top notcher, but he's held in some decent regard that something can blossom there, and it's not hard to see the historical link why. And there are signs in his racing that he would like a kind of fast 2 mile run out the back kind of thing, because what Paul Tennant said after Fairy House was he won that very comfortably without doing a lot in front. And that does remind me of how Ethical Diamond gets ridden and Absurd and State Man when he got it, in St. Ra as well. So I think he's a likely type. I think it's it's definitely a big chance taken, because it's very far out to even bet in the open grade ones here at the festival, and there's a good chance he's going to take a run in between, and obviously need to get there. But I think this is what I'm going to do, really, Ante-Post wise. I think it's a very open year. The Gold Cup market we've discussed at length tells you that. I think there's a lot of kind of vulnerable favourites there, and I think if you're taking flyers at 33 to 1 all the time, you're not really going to be. You're not taking a massive portion out your book on the week where it really matters, when the market's going to be really informative about horses that Sergino, yes, brilliant, but frail. Fact to file, yeah, question mark. Does have the Cheltenham form. I know the way you're thinking is the biggest mystery out of the lot. You can kind of take that out of the equation and deal with it on the day when you've got the data and everything, and have your kind of important main plays there when you have a lot more info in front of you. Even have it 5 minutes before the off if you're on a specific horse. So if you have pops outside market and have a small interest here, and that gives you the motivation to monitor it as well. So this isn't a handicap. I think there's other kind of options that are open, particularly novice hurdles, to do that. Now, I've taken a fly at Copacabana. I think he's very Sortudo-like in the way he's a sleeper for a Bartlett up and trip. It's just now whether they can get a run in him, and he'll probably run a massive race in the Turners now or something like that. And you can cover him. I think there's a lot of horses now that are like that. If you dive deep, I think they're worth taking a chance, because if it doesn't go right, it's a 33 to 1 slip, so small money.
Yeah.
It's a kind of fun, interesting Ante-Post bet that you want to have. You're not kind of locked in, committed to a concrete view of a race too far out for your own good. And therefore, on the day, you become kind of very rigid about it, and you either back out of it or get too heavily involved, and that's where it can become really, really trappy. So, yeah, another 33 to 1 chance. And I think there'll be a lot more kind of outside pokes to come, because I think that's the way we want to play it. So 33 to 1, another Mullins contender, Zillow for the county. I think there's only 4 firms that have got it, so good luck, and just keep monitoring and tracking it if you fancy it as well. But definitely take a look at his last run, because I just think Mullins had bad form. He's not that good. I think there's a lot kind of hidden better to it. So yeah, Zillow 33s county.
And we'll clip this up in a couple of years when he wins the Breeders' Cup Classic.
Yeah, Ethical Diamond didn't even win that race. He didn't even win it here either in the Scottish champion. So there you go.
But yeah, we will be back next week. We'll take a look at the novices. I'll have a couple of Ante-Post picks as well there that I've got ready to go for that. So Calum, always a pleasure, mate. Thank you very much. Been a pleasure.
Yeah, catch you later on.
Thank you very much. Please gamble responsibly, everybody. We'll see you all next week.